Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Susan Knowles. This year they even gave me a little name tag in case I forgot who I was. And I'd like to welcome you to the 31st Annual Washington Day Banquet on behalf of myself and the Chamber of Commerce. This is the second year that I've been chairperson for the banquet, and it truly amazes me because every time I go out door knocking, everybody, I always get this real enthusiastic, sure, I'll be glad to, what can I do? And I thought back to in the summer when Wayne Herman was here, and he was doing the interviews on Small Town America, and he asked me, he said, what is it about Washington that makes it unique? Why did you choose to live there when you were born and bred in Peoria? And this is why, and everybody in this room tonight is the reason why. And I think we can all take a lot of pride in our town and in our Chamber of Commerce. Right now I'd like to introduce Pastor Dean Beckwith from St. Mark's Lutheran Church, and he'll lead us in our invocation.
Let us pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, we are cognizant of our many blessings, and thank you for all that makes life good. We pause this night with friends and neighbors to thank you for food to strengthen our bodies, for shelter to protect us from the elements. We are thankful for a wholesome community and its schools, for city services and for our many retail outlets, for a community of caring people, for a city of churches and families where the life that you have given us can be enjoyed. We thank you for those past and present who've extended themselves for the benefit of all. Help us model ourselves after those who are recognized this night for their examples. Thank you. Amen.
Those of you who don't know and don't care, I'm Sandy Moldovan. I'm president of the Chamber of Commerce this year, and I'm telling you, this is just fantastic. This is just fantastic. We talk about what makes a good chamber and a good city, and nothing makes a good chamber and a good city but the people. I've told some of you at the tables when I've come around that without you being here, we don't have a banquet. We can have the best speaker in the world, we can have the best food in the world, we can have everything going for us, but without the people at the tables, we don't have a Washington Day banquet. So it's you that are responsible for the success of what goes on right here. We have a few introductions to make tonight, and I have a very perfunctory task to perform, and I'd like to do that right now. The first person here at the head table is Susan Knowles, and let me tell you something about this lady. She's the chairperson of this banquet, and I don't know if y'all have any idea what goes into something like this, but it's one heck of a lot of work, and she starts on this thing very early, and she pushes a lot of us very hard to get this thing pulled together, and she's one fantastic lady, Susan Knowles. Sitting next to Susan is Sid and Cheryl Pierce. Sid is a council person. I think we can say councilman for you, can't we, Sid? Yeah, right. Let's get that over with. And Sid is a councilman for the city of Washington, and Cheryl Pierce is our executive director. And Cheryl's going to be talking to you a little later, but I've got to tell you that since I've been involved with the Chamber of Commerce, I've been through 4 executive directors, and absolutely none of them have been as classy as this young lady. Next to Cheryl's Annette Cleff, and she's going to be talking to us a little bit and saying hello. She's Miss Washington, Illinois, and she sat next to my wife tonight, and Carolyn said, I want to thank you for letting me sit next to this pretty young lady and making me look bad, and I said, you're welcome, dear. Because next to Annette is the prettiest lady at the table is my wife, Carolyn. Next to Carolyn is my empty seat, and then Don and Shirley Gronewald, the mayor of the city of Washington, and the first lady. And one thing I got to tell you about the city of Washington, there's Chamber of Commerce has been around for a long time, the city of Washington has been around for a long time, and never, absolutely never in the history of these two entities has there been so much cooperation. Dale Klaus, Ron Dickerson, and all the people at City Hall and the council people have worked so hard with the Chamber of Commerce to help support them. We really sincerely appreciate that. And one thing we'd like to mention is that the hors d'oeuvres tonight were supplied by the City of Washington as a donation to the Chamber, and were brought in by, I think, Mr. and Mrs. Sloniger. And we really appreciate it. I think the city deserves one heck of a hand. Thank you, Mayor and Council. We appreciate that. Reverend Beckwith and his lovely wife, you've heard from him, and you'll be hearing from him again. And he always does a fine job of making us realize why we're really here and why we're really thankful for what's going on. And our speaker tonight, Mr. Newmiller and his wife, they'll be introduced a little later, and we really appreciate having him here tonight and speaking to us. I'm not going to stay up here long because we've got a timetable and we'd like to get you all out of here in time, but there's a couple things that we need to say. This event is sponsored by the Washington Chamber of Commerce, and we're very proud to do that. People ask me all the time, what does the Chamber do? Why should I join the Chamber? You know, everybody, sometimes it's hard to answer. When you start trying to answer that question, how it makes your company or your business more money, it makes it a very difficult question to respond to. But that's not why the Chamber is important. The Chamber of Commerce in the City of Washington is important because it's our job to put your best foot forward. We are here to represent not only the businesses in Washington, but the Chamber and the City of Washington. And our job is to put our best foot forward, not just the businesses, because, you know, the businesses in town, I hear a lot of this, we're always asked to support everything. When they need something, they always come to us, and they do. They come to you, and they come to you, and they come to you, and they always say, we need your support. And some of these businesses in here, some are small, some are very large, but they always come to you and they ask for your support. And that's true, but where we as businesses in the City of Washington get the support is the people. So it's our job to represent the City of Washington and to put the city's best foot forward. We have a new business in town, the newest business in town. We're going to try to recognize the most recent business in town every year. And this year it's a pleasant task to do. Bob Seidel is here from Walmart. We just had a grand opening at Walmart. Bob, stand up just a second. One of the things that happened at the grand opening at Walmart, which was really impressive to me, Bob, was the fact that you recognized your commitment to the City of Washington, to the people here. And that's what the Chamber is all about. We have a commitment not only to the businesses, not only to the city, but to the people of Washington. It's a competitive environment, everybody. Things aren't like they were 10 years ago. We've got to go out and fight for what we get. And the businesses in your community support your community, and they help run your community. And your support of them and your support of the Chamber is very important. So all you business people here, big, medium, and small, we thank you for the support of the Chamber. We thank you for the support of the city. We thank you for the times that we come to you repeatedly. And when the baseball teams come to you repeatedly, and the band comes to you repeatedly, and the football team comes to you repeatedly, we thank you very much, because without your support, we don't have this banquet, we don't have this community, and we don't have the great city that we live in. I'd like to introduce Cheryl Pierce, our Executive Director, and thank you very much for coming. It's great to have you here.
Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad to see you. I got up this morning, it must have been 5:30, 6 o'clock, peered out on my back deck, and saw all the poor birds out there trying to land on our bird feeder that we have on that deck. Saw them doing their own version of the Cossack, trying to stay on the railing, and knew that we were in trouble today. So I appreciate your going through all your efforts to get here this evening. We can always say that when we plan a party, things are never dull. You never know when you have 200 people planned for an evening if everybody's going to be able to show up. So thank you very much. Before we get into the program tonight, I would like to make a special mention. A lot of you know Miss Frances Whitaker, a longtime resident of Washington. She was here at the banquet last year and made a presentation for our 30th anniversary. She was planning on being here. She had come in the office a couple weeks ago, excited about the banquet, and told me that she hadn't missed one since we started having the banquets 31 years ago. I found out yesterday that she's ill and she's in the hospital. She's doing pretty well, and she sent her regrets and sent her best wishes for a wonderful evening tonight. Luckily, we had made arrangements with Steve Hull-Krantz to make the videotape tonight, so we've planned it out, and we are going to get her the video. So she will be able to see the banquet when the video is ready. And we want to say we miss you, Miss Whitaker, and we wish you a speedy recovery. It's now my pleasure to introduce Lynette Veff, our Miss Washington. Lynette was crowned with the Miss Washington title last August at our Good Neighbor Days Festival. She has enjoyed a busy schedule these last few months and has had the opportunity to represent our community at several occasions. She wanted to tell you about her experiences. So ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Lynette Veff.
Good evening, everyone. Well, I had a speech kind of all written out here, but after hearing this, it's kind of changed. They're all talking about support and how much support you guys give. Well, I'm here to tell you that this community does give support, and they give a lot of it. Gary Uftring and Ron Bauer and John Beers are three men who have given me a lot of support recently in some other pageants that I've been in. My name is Lynette Veff, and I am the Miss Good Neighbor Days 1989. This is an honor to attend this banquet. As Miss Washington, my town has given me great support. Area businesses have sponsored me in other pageants that I have had great success in, and they were made possible by the people of Washington. I have also been able to work some muscular dystrophy telethons and some other telethons as Miss Washington. So far, the most fun of Miss Washington was going to the Rivermen hockey game, which the Rivermen had their very first, one of their very first sellouts. It was their very first sellout that they've ever had, that a business corporation didn't buy out all the tickets. And Susan Boley did a really nice job at that, and she kept me very busy, and she showed me a really good time. It was my first Rivermen hockey game. In the future for me is Miss Heart of Illinois, which is March 24th at Bradley Hall. And I'm sponsored by the Washington JCs. I plan to go to Illinois Wesleyan and get a nursing degree as a lifeline nurse, and I hopefully want to become a doctor of terminally ill children in the future. Thank you for all your support, and have a great evening.
And we all wish her a lot of luck at that Heart of Illinois contest in a couple weeks. You'll do us proud. Now, since I assumed the directorship of the Chamber, I have seen something very clearly that I had assumed for several years about human behavior. Why is it that we always put off to the last minute what we could have done quite a while ago? It's called procrastination. For example, we sold 1,935 tickets to the Rivermen game. 1,500 of those were sold the last 2 days before the game. I figure that's a 78% procrastination rate. My monthly newsletter that I do for the Chamber is supposed to go out the 15th of the month. This is February 15th. It's scattered all over my desk in handwritten form. I'm very fortunate that the printer that does this for me has the patience of Job, and every time I go with him each month, late as usual, with sincere promises that next month is going to be better, he just smiles and he knows darn well what's going to happen the next month. Why do we wait until all these situations become close to crisis or even past crisis? Procrastination isn't very critical if we're dealing with Rivermen tickets or with a monthly newsletter. However, if we are dealing with the direction of the development of our community, it gets to be of a little more concern. What kind of an image do we want to project as a community? How does Washington fit into all the development that's going on in the Tri-County area? Into all the tourism activity that is increasing in our area? Where do we want to go, and how do we get there? The old adage that hindsight is 20/20 may be true, but it could also be an easy excuse to avoid a little easy pre-planning. Pre-planners. Other words, some people call them dreamers. Do you remember when you were sitting in grade school trying to figure out what 8 times 7 was? And there was always at least one person in the class that used to gaze out the window. He knew all the answers and seemed to be a step ahead of everybody else. Lots of times he would get in trouble with the teacher, dreaming his dreams, and nobody was really able to keep up with him. Luckily, we do have a few dreamers in our area, and Dick Newmiller is one of those. Dick Newmiller is co-chairman of the Tri-County Tomorrow Group, which is a group of individuals concerned enough about the future of this area that they decided to get together and to map out a plan for it. The result of that planning was Heartland 2010, a vision for the economic future of the Tri-County area. Mr. Newmiller is here tonight to show us a little bit about the methods that he used for this planning. He will share with us some of the ideas he had for the Tri-County area and bring in some ideas for Washington in particular. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Dick Newmiller.
Cheryl, thank you very much. President Earl and Mayor Grunwald and honored members of the board of the Washington Chamber of Commerce and honored guests, I am absolutely delighted to be here this evening, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate what I've heard this evening with regard to the support that you give your community. I heard a conversation up here before dinner that someone was making the reference to Washington as being small. One thing you are not over here is small. I think that this is one of the most dynamic communities in the Tri-County area, and because you have the foresight to come together and to work together and be supportive of one another, your community will always be number one in this area. You have a wonderful heritage here, and as we begin to unfold this evening some of the things that we did to produce Heartland 2010, banking on ourselves, I think you may begin to realize how you can take the energies that you have and that you're already using and go farther forward into the future and really have some fun. I also want to take this opportunity to recognize Nancy, my wife, who through all of the things that we do, she's almost as active as I am in the Peoria community with the Historical Society and the historical tours in this area. She's wonderfully supportive of the kinds of things that we get into in terms of Heartland 2010 and visioning. And I did make her one small promise before I go into the future. If I could dwell for just a moment in the past, something very unique is going to happen in the Tri-County area in 1991-92. The community will be celebrating in the Peoria area because of location the tricentennial anniversary of the French settlement that marks that area as the oldest continuous settlement in the state of Illinois. And I think that there will be opportunities for all in the Tri-County area to share in that celebration. There is a group already underway beginning to make preparations. So tricentennial 1991-1992. On to the future. By the way, Cheryl Pierce has already been acknowledged this evening, but I want to tell you something. This young lady does a superb job. I can't tell you how much she has helped me in providing information and our communications in order to set up this program this evening. And Cheryl, thank you very much. Where did you go? Oh, she's out working for me. Let me start out by having you visualize that you're in an academic setting. And for Dr. Tom Thomas, that's not going to be too difficult. Also for Carl Taylor here this evening. But think of yourself in an academic situation and you're just about ready to complete what is required for your degree, and you're thumbing through a college catalog of curriculum, and all of a sudden you come to a page, and up at the top it says Visioning 101. And it says the following: a study and laboratory program designed to enable the participant to acquire a positive sense about the future and be able to make the future work for the participant. Now, this is an elective course, and my question is, would you sign up? Well, as a matter of fact, in the Tri-County area just a few years ago, 25 individuals did in fact sign up for Visioning 101, and that was in September of '86, and launched Tri-County Tomorrow, which eventually produced our vision of this area for the year 2010. This group became what we called the Creative Futures Group, 25 individuals. Their task was to meet for a period starting in September and ending in March of 1987, and we met roughly about 1 day a week. When you get into this exercise, you really need to spend enough time to get the creative juices flowing and really put your people to work. Then when a day's session is over, you really need a chance to rest. And so this group met on a daily basis, 1 day a month throughout that period of time in order to develop this project. Their assignment was this: to write a story in order to be able to identify the optimum achievable economic scenarios for our Tri-County area for the year 2000 and beyond, and then indicate some of the methods by which the economic and social culture and the political resources of the area could be most effectively employed and prudently synchronized to ensure the achievement of the scenario. Now, what do I mean by a scenario? A scenario is a fictitious make-believe story, and maybe one of the first things that comes to mind is, why should hard-working adults be spending their time working on some kind of a fictitious story? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I don't have to tell you that the power of fiction is really there. Unless nobody in this room has any favorites, most of what we read is fiction. Most of what we enjoy is fiction. As a matter of fact, the heirs to the Mitchell estate, I understand, are trying to find someone to write a sequel to Gone with the Wind so that it's done in the proper manner and someone doesn't just come forward with their vision. One of the most powerful stories of fiction ever, historical fiction. And so through fiction, I think we can create the future, and hopefully we've done so in Heartland 2010. Now, this idea of visioning is a very, very interesting exercise. And what we really try to do when we vision is get from there to here. Now, some of you may raise your eyebrows. What does he mean by getting from there to here? Well, visioning is a discipline that enables you and others not to predict the future. I don't think anybody can do that. But what it enables you to do is to create the future. And more importantly, when you do this with a group, you have the opportunity to develop shared visions. Shared visions. So this is not an exercise of prediction, but rather an exercise that enables you to literally create your own future and to have these shared visions. And then through the process of discussion and working together, you finally bring these shared visions together in a fictitious story called a scenario, and in our case, dealing with the year 2010 in the Tri-County area. Now, as the story unfolds, and as you read the scenario, it dawns on you that you're not reading in the present. You're literally reading a story that is in the year 2010. And what happens as the story unfolds, what happens is that the story takes you from the future to literally where you are right now, the present. And so the process is that you go from there to here. Now, I also have to tell you that visioning is not easy. One of the things we kept talking about during our exercise was the idea of getting out far enough. And we coined the little term "noif," which meant not out far enough. The day that we distributed our scenario, and there is a story in here about a train that runs on magnetic levitation, in the Chicago Tribune there was a picture of a train in Germany that runs on magnetic levitation. The funny thing is that if you are out far enough, you are going to find people that it will be difficult for you to convince them that that is a plausible or a future that can be created. And on the other hand, if they're very comfortable with the story and feel that most of the things in there are plausible, you probably aren't out far enough. So I tell you that visioning and developing the kind of vision that is important for a group to follow does take a lot of work and a lot of hard effort as a group. Now, Cheryl was kind enough to pass out a piece of paper, and I hope that there's at least one copy on each table. One of the things that you have to do in order to be a visionary is to take some time to get away from what you are normally used to. All of us are affected by paradigms because past training and past activities. If you'll take a look at that exercise, and it's basically a square with 9 dots inside, it asks you with a pen or pencil to make 4 lines connecting all the dots without the pen or pencil leaving the table. Somebody probably in this group has seen that exercise before. Has somebody solved that? Anybody in the room solved it? Have you solved it so I can hold it up and show it?
I just did it
Okay.
in my mind, but I've seen the thing before.
We've got a winner here. That is absolutely correct. The only way that you can solve this exercise is what? You've got to get outside the box. Exactly. And the whole idea behind Heartland 2010 and the Tri-County Tomorrow project was to get 25 people, along with 250 community leaders, to at least part of the time get outside of the box. Now, another thing that we need to do in order to vision is to have some kind of a passport, literally some means of getting out there far enough. And we ran on to a rather interesting exercise that I'm going to talk to you about, which tends to be the key to a creative thinking exercise. And we call that green hatting. And this is a very special green hat because it's designed to get you outside the box. Now, when all of you came in here this evening, you probably weren't aware of it, but you were all given 6 hats. And you have those hats with you right now. And what I'm going to do is to tell you how you can use those 6 hats, or 6 thinking hats, in order to produce visions. How many of you have been in a group where you have been talking about the future, and even though it may be 3 to 5 to 10 years down the road, as they say, and not 25 years out, and you're just banging around some ideas, and they get more creative and, as we say, more off the wall, and all of a sudden somebody says, that's a dumb idea, that's not going to work, we're wasting our time, and all of a sudden the air comes out of the creative balloon and people just sort of sit and look at one another, because who wants to throw the next idea out and get shot down? Well, ladies and gentlemen, that doesn't ever have to happen to you again. The 6 thinking hats that you have tonight are used in the following way, and unlike my green hat, these are imaginary hats, but they're just as real as the hat that I have on. Some of the hats we don't use that often. For instance, there is a blue hat, and we can all put on our imaginary blue hats. We wear the blue hat in our group when we're talking about the process that we're going to use. And sometimes you want to amend the process as you go along. One of the interesting things about our Creative Futures group, and we did have some help, we did have a consultant from, believe it or not, the Institute for Creative Futures. There is such an organization, who would spell out an agenda for our day-long session, and by the time he got here, invariably we changed it. He said that this product was one of the most creative that he's ever seen. So the blue hat you wear in the process of talking about the process that you're going to use. When you're in a creative session, every once in a while, you may feel that you need more information, because although your visions are out there, they are in fact related to some of the things that are going on and some present information that you may have. And so you take your white hat on, and it's kind of a point of order, simply saying, I need more information. It's not that you're going to get the information right at that point in time, and then take off the white hat and put back on the hat that you were supposed to have on. The main hat that you use in your sessions is the green hat. And ladies and gentlemen, when this green hat is on and you're in your visioning group, the only thing that you can talk about is creative ideas. And when someone comes up with a negative thought, all you have to say is, Joe, Pete, Sue, Donna, we've got our green hats on, not our black hats. There's an opportunity to use a black hat, and it's very important in the process. But please take off your black hat, put your green hat back on, and let's go with it. And ladies and gentlemen, you will be absolutely amazed at what happens. The air does not come out of your balloon. Nobody has been insulted, and your process keeps going. As a matter of fact, what begins to happen is that people will say, make a comment, and they'll say, uh-oh, I got my black hat on. Sorry about that. They'll take it off without being reminded and put their green hats back on. So when you're in this creative visioning session, trying to reach out 25 years, and by the way, visions are not built on today's facts. They may form somewhat of a foundation, but your visions are built on your ideas and what you see as opportunities. What would you like it to be? If you could literally invent the future, 25 years from now, what would you do? What would you have it be? Don't worry about whether it's logical or whether it's supported by this or that. Simply put that green hat on and really reach out there. Now, I mentioned black hats. Black hats are put on once in a while when you really want to get some kind of a feedback in the sense of, do you see something wrong, or is there something here that we haven't considered, and so forth. It's an opportunity to stop and reflect again as a group, moving in the same direction with the black hat, some things that you might want to react to in a negative manner. And those are important because that's recorded as part of the process. Also, you have a red hat. And red hats are put on when you simply want to get a reaction from your group. How do you feel about this? What do you think about this? What is your real reaction, your emotional reaction? And the red hats are important because you'll get to the point, if you do this correctly, you'll have so doggone many creative ideas out there that you begin to have to winnow and narrow these down. And one way of doing that is every once in a while putting on the red hat and just simply saying, how do you feel about this? And more often than not, we would find in our group that some people would feel much better about one set of creative ideas than maybe another. And again, it's a way of paring down what you have to work with without getting that black hat on. You try to keep the black hats at a very minimum. Finally, another very, very important hat that you wear. After you have had your creative sessions and have developed this whole array of ideas, and by the way, these ideas, you first start out, and if I were doing a session now, I'd have everybody in this room write down the 3 visions that they have for this area 25 years from now. And I mean reach out as far as you possibly can. At some point in time, as we felt we needed to look at the economic development of the Tri-County area, you do begin to identify certain elements: transportation, education, medical, community, the government as a service deliverer and a service provider. And within those elements, we began to take this series of creative ideas and stack some under this heading and some under this heading and so forth, and then broke the group down into smaller teams and began to work in those areas. But at some point in time, when you have all of these creative visions listed, what you want to do then is to develop the process of getting from there back to here. And you do that with a yellow hat. The yellow hat is the hat that sort of gives the storyline. And let me tell you, the storyline is just as fictitious as the vision. This thing, the storyline, does, I think, have to have some measure of credence to it, believability, from the standpoint that it takes the reader from the present, or in terms of the story, back in the past and brings them into the future. Yellow hatting is very, very important in that sense. I've brought with me this evening, and by the way, the 6 thinking hats were basically developed by a gentleman by the name of Edward de Bono, who has a book out called The Six Thinking Hats by Little and Brown Company. I'm not selling the book, but I do understand that the book emporiums in the Peoria area, and I'm sure that there are other book outlets that could order these books for you. But I want to make sure that you have a copy of The Six Thinking Hats, and it'd be easy to make a copy for your directors in order to maybe investigate this process. I did tell Ron that if we could find time in our schedule, we'd come over and maybe work with a group and see if we couldn't at least get the process started and see if we could do something. Now, I don't want to take more than my share of time, but I'm also going to leave with you several copies of the product, Heartland 2010, Banking on Ourselves. Now, what do you suppose is in this document? I want to share some of the ideas with you, but I also want to caution you that it's awfully easy to take something out of context and maybe react to it in a little bit of a negative way. Remember, these are visions, these are ideas, these are invented futures by a group of people that saw this as their collective vision. As a matter of fact, we produced 5 scenarios. We built one scenario around things just stay as they are. Another scenario was developed around the idea that things get worse. Another scenario was built around the idea that the Tri-County area was actually part of a region. In fact, through a study done by a professor at the University of Illinois, taking the 70 counties in the mid part of Illinois and totaling up personal income and other figures with regard to assets, that 71 counties was a larger economic force than several of the states in the United States. It's amazing what happens when you look beyond. And the other vision that we had, or scenario that we developed, was based on the fact that we were part of a global economy. As a matter of fact, 2 days ago, driving home, I looked up in the sky and saw a Boeing 747. Now, I know they don't normally land at the Greater Peoria Airport, but the point is they're capable of landing there and taking off. And probably the only reason that they don't fly in there is because for the passenger traffic demands at the moment, they would be too big. But from the standpoint of a vision, there's nothing that prevents one of those planes from taking off in Tokyo or Hamburg or wherever and flying directly to Peoria and unloading. Now, why on earth would a 747 want to do something like that? Well, to attend the International Invention Convention that's held every 2 years in the Peoria Civic Center starting in the year 1992. Inventors from all over the world come into the Tri-County area and to display their ideas, and also attract a number of entrepreneurs who are interested in using those inventions and bringing them to commercialization. It's one of the biggest festivities in the Tri-County area, and as a result of this, several of the inventors have decided to locate here because they enjoy the hospitality and the support and the friendship, not unlike that you provide your businesses in this community. And so consequently, as part of a global market, the Tri-County area does host the International Invention Convention. How many of you ever heard of ARDC or BRDC, the Biological Research and Development Consortium? 6 companies that work with the Ag Lab in the Peoria area who are developing through shared basic research ideas that someday will produce the cornwood. This is a genetically developed piece of corn that is grown out in the fields, and as you look at cornwood, the ears are minuscule, but the stalks are huge. In fact, they represent something like a 2x4. And because of the popularity of cornwood and the way that it's used in this area for construction, as well as throughout the United States, where the crop will prosper, Caterpillar Tractor Company has developed an entire new line of machines to harvest cornwood. That comes in about 1984. Hospital on a Wrist. 1994. Thank you. Hospital on a Wrist. Because of the worldwide communication effort that Caterpillar Tractor Company has, and because they are now able to know when any of their equipment is in trouble around the world and can begin to dispatch help before the local dealer is even aware that there's a problem. We have used that worldwide communication network in order to develop Hospital on a Wrist. Over a fourth of the population of the United States that needs to have medical monitoring is now monitoring pulse, heart rate, and so forth. It's fed back into a central computer system located in the Heartland area, and through this mechanism, doctors throughout the world are able to monitor patients. That's the result of a cooperative effort that began a number of years ago in the Heartland area because of medical research. Now, interestingly enough, somehow I got some new pages to the scenario, and I'd like to read them for you. In 1992, the four-lane route, Route 24 bypass, was completed to Secor, and the new interstate-type highway was completed from LaSalle, Peru, Illinois, through El Paso. Recognizing the value of connecting with the new highway in El Paso, the Washington Chamber of Commerce lobbied successfully in Springfield and saw the state appropriate the monies necessary to complete the connection in 1995 to El Paso. By then, that interstate had reached Bloomington. The new four-lane highway from the Illinois River to El Paso was named the Holland Highway in honor of William Holland, the first settler in the town of Washington. But the new Holland Highway was only a part of the story. At a tourism planning meeting conducted by the Washington Chamber of Commerce in the fall of 1993, a green hatting session produced an unbelievable series of visions that led to Washington, Illinois becoming the headquarters of the Heartland Historical Society. Combining its already famous name of Washington, which led to the opening of the Heartland Center for American Revolution, the most complete collection of Americana on the American Revolution and the French Revolutions in the Midwest. And with its strategic location in the land of Lincoln, Washington, Illinois is also the headquarters city for Heartland Center for Historical Tours. By 1995, the blacktop to Metamora was widened to 4 lanes, as was the blacktop to Morton, linking Washington directly now with I-74, as well as the interstate coming south from the Illinois River. Now Washington has, through its Heartland Historical Society, developed a series of journeys in the comfort that people would be accustomed to in tour buses that go to the Lincoln Courthouse in Metamora, to the site of the Peoria speech in Peoria, the Lincoln-Peoria speech, to the only remaining Lincoln-Douglas debate site at Knox College in Galesburg, to the Ronald Reagan exhibits in Eureka, to Springfield, to New Salem, to Mount Pulaski, to Bloomington. Tour buses from all over the United States include this as one of their main parts of their tours into the Midwest. The Heartland Historical Center employs a full-time staff of 35 and numerous volunteers. The center does contract for work through other historical associations throughout the country because of its ability to effectively design brochures, and these are also printed in a brand new printing operation in the Washington area. And of course, these tour buses always stop at the world-famous Bierce Oftring Studios, where all of the Midwest sitcoms are now televised. And finally, in 1996, Heartland Rail Society, also headquartered in the restored GM&O station in Washington, Illinois, acquired a steam locomotive and now operates the country's first authentic steam-powered dinner train from Washington to Forest, Illinois and back. It is called the Prairie Marksman, and it is in honor of the famous steam dinner train on the TP&W of yesteryear. My friends, all you need to do is to dream, is to vision, and anything is possible. And let me conclude by reading you part of a poem that has as its author Anonymous. The future is not some place we are going to, but one we are creating. The paths to it are not found, but made. And the activity of making them changes both the maker and the destination. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a privilege. Good luck and happy green hatting.
We really appreciate you're able to come tonight, and it looks like you've got quite a few projects for the Chamber lined up for the next few years. We're looking forward to the challenge. And now, without further ado, we have a few awards we have to give out, and Mayor Grunwald will do that honor.
Good evening, fellow Washingtonians. I don't have a green hat, but I will agree with him because I can remember the days of Buck Rogers, and they said, you know, that's a dream. But just look at some of those jet planes that you fly around the country in today, and this trip to the moon we've had and so forth. It's not impossible. It's not impossible. I don't say it will happen in my lifetime, but it's not impossible. I guarantee you. Before we start with the awards tonight, I would like to make a couple of comments. First of all, being the fifth speaker up here, there's very little left to be said. But I would want to congratulate the Chamber once again for another fine banquet. 31 in a row, that's some taking, and they get better every year. Thank you very much, group. Secondly, I would also like to thank you, Dick, for coming out and speaking to us tonight. It really was an inspirational speak, and it gives us all in the council and the city and the Chamber something to think about. We think we got a great city, but maybe you've given us something else to talk about, too. The last thing I want to do before I introduce the new recipients tonight is to recognize the past recipients. I think it'd be a good idea if we had all the past recipients please stand. Get up there. You know who you are. We don't have them listed here tonight, but let's please all stand. Give them a hand. We will do the awards tonight in the order that you have them printed on your program. The first awards is the Washingtonian Awards, and as usual, there are two of them this year. The first one I will read as follows. One letter of nomination for the Washingtonian Awards cited that this individual's unlimited energy and enthusiasm, whether serving as a chief or as an Indian, when involved in community projects. This and a long list of involvement in volunteer projects prompted the selection of this person for the 1990 Washingtonian Award. Other accolades and letters of nomination describe this year's award recipient as a person who would do everything to help others, always ready and willing to help out in every worthy project, an inspiration to the young and to the young at heart. A resident of Washington for 50 years, this individual has earned the respect of others through her contribution of countless volunteer hours, ranging from driving someone to in need of transportation to serving on fundraising drives. Twice widowed, she is a mother of two sons, one daughter, and the proud grandmother of several grandchildren. At one time, she was very active in the Parent Teachers Association and the Girl Scouts. Formerly employed as a nurse at the Past Brewing Company in Peoria, this gracious lady found the time to work her family responsibilities in many organizations over the years. In addition, she is remembered as a soloist for the Washington Band concerts in past years. She is a current member of Encore in Washington. An active participant in the Washington Women's Club, she has served as chairman of many committees and as president of that organization. She is a member of the American Legion Auxiliary Post 100 and has been chairwoman of the past Poppy Day sale. Most recently, this year's Washingtonian of the Year's recipient, Margaret Lucas, if you haven't guessed already, has been very involved with activities in the Washington Historical Society. Instrumental in establishing and organizing the Historical Society, she is currently serving as secretary, as well as volunteering to staff the Society's little house, written newsletters, and generally filling in wherever necessary. While the list of volunteer activities may be incomplete, according to a friend who has known Mrs. Lucas for 40 years, even a partial list illustrates that she is an individual with a commitment to Washington and a vision of a brighter future through hard work, dedication, and service to the community. A criteria for selection as a Washington Award winner, which we always follow. Another friend wrote that Mrs. Lucas has enriched the lives of many people in this community and is long overdue for the Washingtonian Award. I agree. Congratulations, Marguerite Lucas. Will you please come forward? We have a plaque for you here tonight. It reads, 1990 Washington Chamber of Commerce Washingtonian Award presented to Marguerite Lucas for individual service and unselfish dedication to the community. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. My goodness, this isn't something that you think of. What can I say except thank you? I really feel that I've been probably a proud citizen for 50 years. We chose Washington in 1939. We've really enjoyed our lives here. Thank you very much.
Our second winner's letter reads as follows. A nominated letter recommending this individual for the 19 Washingtonian Award noted, it would be impossible to count the number of volunteer hours this person has given to Washington. The Scribe of Friends is a very dedicated servant of Washington who is energetic and always ready to help. This individual's contribution to the city began in 1968, according to a lengthy list of volunteer efforts that extended to the present day. Praised by a daughter as always willing to help with different projects for different activities. This individual has never been deterred by the size of the project. From smaller helpful acts that include plowing snow from a friend's driveway and sandbagging flooded creek banks to major endeavors which have an impact on the entire community. Commitment is the routine of this recipient. Our Washingtonian Award winner is a family man who moved to Washington in 1966 after his marriage in 1965. An inside story related by his wife described the couple's first meeting with a touch of humor. He was working at a hardware store in the Chicago area, and I went to get a boat. I came out with, he goes on to say, I came out with a nut. The wife said that. According to Webster's dictionary, a nut is used as a slang term to describe someone who is a devotee or fan. I believe that describes our winner much better. This aptly describes our honoree, a devoted fan, for whatever will benefit Washington residents. The list of voluntary credits include service as a member of the Washington Rescue Squad, 1968 to 1981, service of volunteer police officer from 1969 to the current time, active participation in the Good Neighbor Days Festival. I know you've all guessed him already. He has served on the coordinator for the Emergency and Service Disaster Agency, ESDA as it's called, from 1979 to the current time. Steve has remained active in the community despite a personal tragedy which deeply affected his life and lives of his wife Carolyn and daughter Heather. As you all know, they lost their son in 1985 after a malignant brain tumor was first diagnosed 4 years earlier. Transforming adversity into an effort to help others has not stopped Steve. Steve was instrumental in establishing the Brain Tumor Hotline. The telephone hotline allows persons access to medical experts for consultation and advice. Steve's most recent commitment has been the implementation of the countywide enhanced 911 emergency telephone system. The E911 system will facilitate quick responses when Washington residents place urgent calls. One Washington resident in recommending Steve for the Washingtonian Award noted, "We appreciate the security we enjoy as residents of Washington through the efforts of Steve Holcrans in securing the enhanced 911 system." Steve Holcrans has enhanced the City of Washington in more ways than one. Congratulations, Steve. We also have a plaque for Steve which reads 1990 Washington Chamber of Commerce Washingtonian Award presented to Steve K. Holcrans for individual service and unselfish dedication to the community. Congratulations.
I really shouldn't come up here. I'm working.
That's all right. We'll give you 5.
Thank you. I certainly appreciate this. I have enjoyed working for the city since I've been here in 1966, and I have to certainly ask or comment on the support I've gotten from my family, because they probably hear a lot more about what's going on in most positive ways with the city. And I think we will have one of the finest communication systems for emergencies in a very short while. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Now it is time for the 19 Business of the Year Award. It is with great pleasure that I read this, present it to someone who I know very well, and I'm sure you do too. The Washington business chosen to receive the second annual Washington Chamber of Commerce Small Business Award has been in operation for 6 years. Employing a relatively small staff of about 6 persons, the owner is not only the boss, but also a friend, much respected for her efforts and accomplishments, according to an employee who nominated the business for the award. The owner has been very active in community affairs in addition to operating a business which has continued to grow since purchase in 1984, doubling its volume of sales in the past 3 years. Residents of Washington and the surrounding area, and from far away of Bloomington, Springfield, Rockford, and other cities, enjoy the pleasant surroundings afforded by a visit of this unique establishment. It is, however, the established tempting and delicious menu selections that prompt return visits. First-time visitors and regular customers find the special dessert offerings hard to resist. I don't request them very often, as you can tell when it would do to me. I just sit and drool. Susan's Tea Room, located in 123B Washington Square, is owned and operated by Susan Knowles, and is this year's recipient of the Washington Small Business Award. Susan, will you please come forward? Her plaque reads, the Washington Chamber of Commerce proudly presents the 1990 Outstanding Business Award to Susan's Tea Room. Susan Knowles. Congratulations again.
Thank you very much. Oh. For once, I don't know what to say, and I'm sure the girls are shocked. I think the proudest moment in my life was when my son was born, but I have to tell you this is a real close second. And the name of my business, the first word is Susan, which I guess stands to reason since I'm she. But the next word is T, and the first 3 letters are TEA, and they're also the first 3 letters in team. And that's what we are. And without every one of my girls, that's what makes my tea room and makes me a success. Thank you.
Our fourth award is for community services. We're giving this year to 2 groups who deserve it very much and equally. This chamber would like to honor 2 organizations and their staffs of volunteers with special recognition awards for their service to the community. The Washingtonian Awards presentation does not include a category for service organizations, and it would be difficult to name each and every volunteer in these organizations, because there are many, without perhaps missing 1 or 2. However, the selfless contributions of many volunteers whose efforts result in 2 Governor's Hometown Awards merits the gratitude and appreciation of the fellow citizens of their hometown. Tonight's special awards are presented as a tribute to the volunteers who serve WHIP, which, as you all know, means Washington Helps Its People, and the volunteers who work with the Washington Senior Citizen Center. WHIP has served an average of 113 families 2 times each month in the past years. Many volunteers have supported WHIP with monetary donations and or their contribution of time since this organization opened its doors to the needy in 1983. The effort of WHIP volunteers dedicated people to the trenches, extending many hours of dedicated labor day in and day out. In the twice monthly distribution of food, these are examples of volunteers at its finest. Mr. Ken Cook, would you please come forward? I have watched Ken work hours and hours on this program. I don't know how many. He probably doesn't care to tell us either.
No.
But it's our pleasure, really, to give this award to you and your organization, WHIP.
Thank you very much.
We've needed it, and there you always were. Your plaque reads 1990 Washington Chamber of Commerce Community Service Award presented to WHIP. Washington helps its people, in recognition of outstanding contributions to the Washington and its citizens.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I've heard a lot of people tonight talk about the wonderful people in Washington, and I want to tell you, you're a bunch of nice people. We decided a long time ago that when we got in this thing, that it's sort of we call it a bicycle business. No offense, Russell, but a bicycle business in that if you stop pedaling, you fall down. So we decided, after we decided it wasn't a short-term thing, this is our 8th year we're starting, we got a bicycle built for 2. And you people are in the back seat. Even if I coast or we coast, you keep pedaling, it keeps us going, and it's just been wonderful, the support we've got. And I just want to thank everybody here.
As I said earlier, the second award is for the Senior Citizen Center, which services elderly residents of the area by delivering meals to shut-ins and providing countless additional services and/or information for seniors. The unsung heroes who give their time, effort, and/or funds to the Senior Citizen Center are to be commended for their spirit of volunteerism that exceeds expectations. Individuals and collectively, the WHIP and Senior Citizen Center volunteers make Washington grow and glow as a better place to live. And I believe tonight we have Sue Johnson, who is Executive Director of the Senior Citizen Center here. Is she with us? There she comes. And I'd like to have Mr. George Grimm, the President of the Senior Citizen. Would you please come forward, George? I know this is an example of another team. And your plaque reads 1990 Washington Chamber of Commerce Community Service Award presented to the Washington Senior Citizen Center in recognition of outstanding contributions to Washington and its citizens. Congratulations.
I gather that Sue is a little too bashful to say anything, and I'm not. The center has been in operation now for quite a few years. What is it, about 8 years? I happen to be on the organizing committee, which took about 2 years to find out how to do it. And I don't know how many of you have been down there, but I wish you'd all get down and see what they have, see what they do. And I hope that you will all support it. There are a few senior citizens around here, and you probably find something to do down there. There are many activities. We thank you very much for your recognition.
I also thank you for this opportunity, and I certainly will pass this award on to the many volunteers who help out at the Senior Center. We have the home-delivered meal program, and we have 2 routes daily, and this necessitates 2 drivers for 5 days a week, so there's 10 volunteers right off the bat. And we serve meals at the center 3 days a week, and we have a kitchen helper there. And then I can go on from there to exercise class, 2 of them, 1 on the mats and 1 on chairs, depending on what your ability is, and typing class. We have a bingo caller, we have pinochle and bridge lessons, and the list goes on and on. So there are many, many volunteers who assist. And I'd like to also thank each and every one of you for your support of the center. I think it is a real compliment to Washington to have this fine facility. There are more than 100 seniors that are involved every month in the different activities. Some may just come for pinochle, others like the trips, and others come for friendship and socialization, which is a good thing for everyone. I also would like to invite you to stop in at any time. We'd be happy to have you. The center is located on the lower level of St. Mark's, And we're there from Monday through Friday from 9 in the morning till 3. So you're welcome to come down and join us for lunch or whatever you might like to join in. We'd be happy to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue and George, and to all the winners, congratulations once again. This is what makes Washington, and I am very proud of it, to be your mayor and be up here this evening. I'll turn it back to Sue. Are you okay? Are you up or not?
Yeah.
Can you do it?
Well, I don't know about you guys, but tonight was the highlight of my life. So, I do have a couple of announcements. Steve Hallkrantz asked me to announce that this evening's program will be broadcast over Channel 32 on Cablevision. He says to watch the Washington Reporter for the schedule. It's a public access TV station servicing Washington. And also we have an announcement that today is Dan and Michelle Wilbur's wedding anniversary. So happy anniversary, Dan and Michelle. Also, I'd like to take a minute to thank all the people that helped with the banquet this year, and also it's not on the back of our program, but Bill Emhoff from Kroger's donated the corsages that Cheryl and I have, and he also donated the roses that were given to all of the winners. And we'd like to thank the City of Washington for sponsoring our reception, and thank Cakes by Sloniger for catering it. Suzanne Boley is responsible for our banner. Blooming Attic Florist in the Washington Greenhouse did all the table decorations. The printing of the tickets was donated by Washington State Bank. There's a special commemorative brochure that you'll be receiving after the banquet that was courtesy of Courier Publishing and Tazewell Publishing. Jones Trophy donated 2 of our awards for the plaques. And the special guest tickets, the tickets for the people at the head table, were donated by First National Bank. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night. I'll turn it over now to Pastor Dean Beckwith, and he'll do our benediction.
Would you all please rise once again? And now may the Lord bless us and keep us. May the Lord make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon us and grant us his peace. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you.